back to Rolling Solo. My name is Adam Smith, and we are going to head right into the gameplay to pick up where we left off in the last video for Bloodborne, the board game. Now, the first thing I want to do, though, is correct one thing that was caught thanks to the viewers that watched the previous episode around my current health. Around the 58 to 60 minute mark of part number 1, I was going up against a hunter mob in a fog gate surrounded tile, and if you remember, I forgot to reveal one of the cards. Now, I still caught myself and showed this card and corrected things, but what I didn't correct was the fact that when I took off 4 damage from the hunter mob initially, I didn't have anything to dodge its attack. So when I learned that there should have been an insight token on a card giving it 8 health, I didn't actually take the damage from the attack of the hunter mob, which at the time was a basic axe swing. So technically, 2 damage should be off of my HP count. And now that that's been squared away, we can continue with the gameplay. Our focus is still the hunt mission, which is Source of the Scourge. It says we need to end a move on the central lamp tile after we've collected at least 2 insight, and then we can reveal card number 2, which is right on top of that campaign deck that you can see. Now, to the right of that campaign deck, you'll see the Chapter 1 mission card and a number of different things that can be revealed based on ending a movement. 3 of them at the bottom there. Well, we have seen all 3 of those tiles now, so these have all led to different insight missions, one of which we've completed. There's still 2 more on the board, and we need to decide which of those 2 to go after, unless I want to get really aggressive and try to complete all 3. So here's my current line of thinking. I'm looking at the game board right now, and I'm seeing that we have an insight mission to rescue somebody way up in that top right corner there with the most enemies. We have a huntsman minion up there waiting for us and a scourge beast. We do have some consumable chests we could potentially interact with and get some good stuff out of, but we got to go through quite a bit to get there. The one that's probably easier to get to is the one at the occupied house. The occupied house, we know if we just get there, we can then take that survivor token, and we just need to, at that point, find the chapel. Now, the funny thing is, out of all the tiles I've revealed so far, none of them have been the chapel, but the good news is there's only 1 tile left in the tile deck, so I know for a fact it's coming up next, which means I could purposely try and explore to put it right next to the central lamp tile and make this a little bit easier. The other thing I have in my back pocket is a little bit of a trick with an item, or I should say a consumable, that I picked up in part number 1. Now, before I divulge my strategy here in trying to get that second insight token, I want you to see where we are on the hunt track. We are 1 space away from a reset, so I don't want to do anything too rash on this upcoming turn, as everything's going to be reset anyway. Another correction that just came to mind, which is really just a big miss on my part if I don't take advantage of it, is the fact that every single time you take out one of these enemies, a blood echo is given to the hunter who took it out. So I should have a blood echo for taking out that hunter mob at the very end of part number 1. This is the kind of thing you're not going to want to forget, as remember, if we go back to the hunter's dream, we can use these blood echoes in order to upgrade cards, and that's a very, very valuable part of the game. To close the loop on what I alluded to earlier around my plan here, is it's actually going to be delayed by at least a turn, because I'm looking at the cards I have in hand here, as well as the fact the board's going to reset as I mentioned, and I'm not really feeling all that great about being greedy and going into the space where the occupied house is and try and take out the scourge beast. I only have 4 health right now, and the scourge beast has a chance it could land a special. Now, there has been a special card pulled out of the enemy action deck already, making the odds of the next one coming out a little less, but it still could happen, and if it does, it would wipe me out, which is not exactly the greatest thing ever, and I don't want to lose the blood echo that I have. I only have 1, which is not a ton, but I don't want to lose it. I almost want to potentially head back to the hunter's dream and cash it in to get a card right now. So what I think I'll do, because I don't have a dodge in my hand to start, and I'm really banking on the fact that one of those draw 1s might, if I used it for an attack, pan out in drawing me up a dodge card. That's a little too risky for me. I don't need to do that, so I'm just going to choose to head right to the hunter's dream. That'll reset everything. It'll happen around the same time that the board needs to reset anyway, and then we can come right back in, and I've got a plan to use a pebble to my advantage. Our hunter has gone to the dream. I do have to discard a card, so I'll get rid of one of my draw one basic cards to do this. Going into the hunter's dream, of course, my deck's going to be replenished anyway, so the two cards that I had in hand are just going to be merged right back in my deck when I reset it. At this point in time, we do need to move the hunt track up by 1, which will hit the reset space, and it's going to reset everything in play. That really doesn't change much, except there was the Church of the Good Chalice where I had taken 2 consumables, so 2 new consumables get placed there. Hunt track has been updated. The blood echo I'm going to spend it on invigorating. This is a dodge that also has a heal 1, and it states here, clear this or any other slot. That is a very, very good card. I like that. The hunter's dream has been replenished. There is a new card here, agile, with a stagger and an addition on the speed. In order to get this card into my deck, I'm going to go ahead and discard a basic stagger, and invigorating is going to be mixed into my deck of 12 cards, and that whole deck has been reset. The deck has been reset. I also get to heal up to 6. My firearm would refresh, although it's already ready to go. My hand lantern would refresh if it had the availability to do so. I didn't even use it, so it wasn't exhausted in the first place. And as of right now, I'll wait on the trick weapon. I'll decide which side I want to be on once I actually get back into the game. As you'll remember, when we first entered the hunter's dream, the hunt track went up by 1, landed on a red space for a reset, and so of course we need to go ahead and make sure everything on the game state has been reset. Now all the enemies are in the spaces they should be based on their spawns. Consumables need to be replenished though at that church. And just like that, we are all squared away. My hunter is going to return back to the game board at any lamp in play. I'm going to choose to have it land on the central lamp tile, and now we get to refresh our hand, drawing up 3 cards. I have a very similar hand to what I ended up getting rid of when I jumped into the hunter's dream. It's a little bit different. It has 2 staggers instead of 2 draw 1s, but similar makeup for the most part. The hunt track will also go up by 1 for the beginning of a new round. You'll also notice that the distance between each of the red resets changes only 1 time. Once we hit the next red reset, which is the 3rd one, you'll notice there's only 2 blank spaces before the final reset. All right, it is time to now go ahead and use the plan that I had in place, at least in my mind, as to how I can make this occupied house insight mission much, much easier. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my pebble at the start of my hunter's turn, which allows me to move 1 enemy that's within 2 spaces up to 2 spaces. The Scourge Beast was 2 spaces away from me, and I want to move it 2 spaces further back. So I have chucked a pebble quite a long ways in order to get that Scourge Beast out of the way to make it easier to get to the occupied house, and maybe, potentially, if I decide to try and risk it, go after the other insight mission as well. But that might be not the best plan of action. We'll see how things go. I'll discard 1 stagger card to get 2 movement to move into the occupied house tile. I'll need to discard another card in order to get into the occupied house tile and then move out of it with the survivor on our way back to the central lamp tile. Using a 2nd stagger card gives me enough movement to get in there, grab the survivor, and head back out. And finally, to end off the last action, using the last card that I have, another 2 points of movement to get out of that tile I'm currently in. And why do I want to do this? Because if I don't get out of there, all of those enemies are going to activate and start to pursue me. So this keeps my distance from them. Now, the one thing strategy-wise I want to mention, and this is something around Bloodborne that's really interesting, is just because there's miniatures and enemies on the game board, unlike a lot of these types of games, you're not always trying to kill everything you see. Just like in the video game, running past or running away from enemies is actually a viable strategy, and you can use this. Now, the only downside is you're not actually gaining extra blood echoes that can then enhance your deck if you are avoiding enemies all the time. So it's worth doing in certain situations, and that's why I'm doing it here, to show you that you can do this as a strategy. But the con side of it is, again, your deck is not getting the extra upgrades that it might get by being a bit more aggressive. Once you become comfortable with how much risk you are okay with, you can go into combats trying to gain as much blood echoes as possible to get as many upgrades as possible in the first chapter of a particular campaign to give you a leg up on the future chapters. Hunter turn is complete. The enemies are not going to activate. Nobody's close by. We wrap back around to the start of a new turn. We're going to get 3 new cards, and we're going to move the hunt track by 1. Off camera, I move the hunt track, and these are the 3 cards off the top of the deck. This time, we get to actually use both of the upgraded cards inside of 1 turn. That's pretty cool. And remember, you can always hold on to cards, especially dodge cards, if you want to, or you like the particular card and you want to use it for a future dodge ability during an attack against you, or you just want to have it for your upcoming turn next time around. If you hold on to a given card, you'll just draw up to 3. So if you really want to hold on to draw 1s, for instance, because you'd like to accumulate a bunch and have a really strong draw round, then you could do that. We know exactly where we're headed right now. Let's discard a card in order to gain 2 movement, to move 1 space towards the west side of the central lamp tile, and then another space into a brand new revealed tile that we know is going to be the chapel, as it's the last one in the deck. And as it states on the insight mission in the bottom right hand corner there at the very bottom, it says end a move on the chapel tile with the token, the survivor token, which I have completed, and we now can reveal card number 9. A safe haven. The smell of beast warding incense fills your nose as you enter the old chapel. The old woman thanks you for your kindness before taking refuge with another small band of townsfolk. Suddenly the chapel's magnificent stained glass window shatters as the scourge beast crashes through. Reveal card 10. Ferocious. Place 1 insight token on this card. If 3 or more hunters, place an additional token. When the scourge beast would be slain, instead, remove 1 token and heal all the damage from it. All tokens are returned on the reset spot on the hunt track. Replace its special with the following. And this is really interesting that these insight missions, or these cards that can reveal from the campaign deck, can actually affect the actual abilities of particular enemies you are going up against. In this case, this special now replaces the normal special of the Scourge Beast. And remember, the normal special was a combo slash. And it's also important to note that the regular cards for the enemies are double-sided. So technically, there's already 2 variations, and these cards are adding even more at times. The new special is a Blood Frenzy, and it's going to be just for the Scourge Beast inside of the chapel we'll be dealing with shortly. It's going to have a fast attack at 2 damage. It states here deals plus 2 damage if the Scourge Beast has any damage on it. So it's basically going to get madder and madder and be doling out more and more damage as it's hurt. If Scourge Beast is slain, the hunter must dodge at a slow level of speed or suffer 3 damage. So there is quite a bit going on there. Finishing off the Insight mission card under revealing card 10, it states surround the chapel tile with the fog gates. Of course, we'll be doing this shortly. Spawn a Scourge Beast on the slot with the lamp, and we're of course going to put a broken lamp on top of that lamp space. It responds to that space if we hit a reset spot. It's also immune to the effect of the chapel, which we'll see shortly. It's in the top left-hand corner of the tile, and it says complete this mission by slaying this Scourge Beast. So we know, again, wording can always give way to whether or not there's going to be more for an insight mission or even a hunt mission. This proves that if we do this, we complete this insight mission. This is the effect of the chapel, which again will not be impacting this Scourge Beast at all. It states enemy attacks suffer -1 speed while on this tile. The fog gates are going to close in around us and the Scourge Beast is emerging. You'll also notice on the card on the far left hand side, the Ferocious card that we pulled, I've placed an insight token there to remind us that we're going to need to go through not only 4 damage the first time around, but another 4 afterwards to take this thing out. Here's what's really awesome about this. Remember Ludwig's rifle and the fact that I equipped it? Well, when the enemy eventually moves into my space, which will happen when it activates after I'm done my turn, it's going to be dealt 2 damage. So I've got a pretty good setup here to put a decent amount of damage on it within this given turn. I'm going to be going ahead and using Bloodthirsty from my hand and slotting it into the heavy carve section to try and pull off a 4 damage attack. This card also has some effects that'll occur on kill. Well, do I ever feel better about my decision not to actually go after the Scourge Beast that originally was in that occupied house tile area? Remember when I said it could have pulled a special? Well, it did. It actually pulled the last special in the deck, and this special now for this Scourge Beast is going to be referenced off the Ferocious card that we just read. This ends up being a good news, actually even more of a good news situation than I thought, rather than a bad news. Now, the bad news is it's attacking me with a fast attack at 2 damage. damage, so that's fun. But underneath of it, there was a whole bunch of nasty abilities that we read, and if you remember, I just mentioned both specials have now been pulled out of the deck, so there's going to be no more chances for these specials to trigger going forward. And if you take a look at how they're written, it states underneath that it deals 2 damage if the Scourge Beast has damage on it. Being that this is the second special card that came in the deck, there is no damage on it. That will not apply right now, and we won't have to deal with it for 4 more cards worth coming off the enemy action deck, which is awesome. At least 4 cards, maybe even more when the deck resets. And then down below it says, if the Scourge Beast is slain, the hunter must dodge at a slow speed or suffer 3. Again, won't apply, because by the time I actually get 4 damage through it, have the insight token taken off, put another 4 through on it, which will probably be a second attack, it won't be pointing at the special anymore, so that could not have worked out any better. At this point, I'm still going to dodge because I really don't want to take the 2 damage from the fast attack that will be hitting me quicker than my heavy carve, so I'm happy to play this card again. The heals here kind of hurt because I'm not really making the best use of them, but I also don't need them at this moment. But I can tell you, in other plays that I've had of this scenario with this exact same setup in these kind of situations, heal comes in super, super handy. This time I got lucky, especially based on how these enemy action cards have come off the top of the deck, making life a little bit easier for me going forward. Now, as of right now, the dodge does ensure that nothing is going to happen to me from the 2 damage attack, which is fast from the Scourge Beast. My attack then goes through afterwards, and it's going to do 4 damage, which is not going to kill it, so I do not get to draw or heal. All it does is remove 1 insight token. So it certainly doesn't seem like much, but taking that token off the Ferocious card is half of its damage off, which is pretty nice. We now just need to put 4 more on, and we are golden. We'll get that second insight that we need. But at this point in time, I am out of cards, and we know what happens then. We have an activation with the enemy that's inside the same area as me, right beside me. It is going to move into my space, and happily, the second it does, before it even gets to go ahead with its combat against me, my Ludwig's rifle is going to trigger, dealing 2 damage to it. The Scourge Beast lunges at me, and I take a nice shot at it with my rifle, doing 2 damage to it, and at this point, it is going to attack me, and I have no dodge cards in hand to do any dodging of this attack, so this is coming straight through to me. Let's go to the enemy action deck and find out what happens. Getting all the fancy cards out of the way here, both the specials and now the ability are out of the deck, so we know the rest of them are going to be basic, but guess what? The ability on the Scourge Beast is not nice. It's to flip another enemy action, and the Scourge Beast's next attack is going to gain a +1 damage, and it's going to stagger. Now, the stagger is not going to matter in this case, but the damage is certainly going to hurt. And there's that basic attack. It's a basic attack, which means it's a fast attack for the Scourge Beast. 2 damage +1 is now going to be 3, which removes half of my health in 1 hit. It hurts my soul to know that I do not get the ability to use all those wonderful heals off the cards that I had already in here. And it's also worth mentioning, the second I placed this dodge when I did my attack in the last turn, I should have cleared this slot immediately, so I'm going to do that right now. We're now all squared away, and we start a brand new turn. I'm going to draw 3 cards. We're going to move the hunt track up by 1, which is going to put us 1 away from another reset. Now, this isn't bad. I'm actually quite okay with this. For this turn, to start things off, I'm going to start with an attack, of course, and I'm going to put a basic +1 damage into my medium speed 2/damage slot. Now, of course, this is overkill. This is more damage than we actually need, and I was debating potentially using one of the basic dodge cards that I have, because I have 2 of them, to actually initiate a slash attack, because it would clear the slot and all that kind of stuff. But you know what? I might want to hold on to one of the dodges and maybe keep it for the next turn so that I can potentially use it against some of the other beasts if I choose to be a little greedy and go after some more blood echoes and upgrades. I don't know if I'm going to do that just yet, as I might just want to go right to the central lamp tile. So for now, I'm happy with this. So we'll go ahead. This is our first initiation of the attack. Let's find out what the Scourge Beast plans to do. And we kind of already know, based on the enemy action deck, it's going to be a basic. Yes, indeed. So a basic is a quick swipe. It's a fast attack doing 2 damage. In order to avoid the damage completely, I'm going to make sure it's at the same speed or higher. I'm going to put the dodge card in the quick cut position, and that's going to ensure that that basic attack does not land. And then after that, my attack gets to go, which is the slash for 3 damage, wiping out the Scourge Beast. The dodge card that I used is cleared from the slot as it mentioned on the card, and I get a blood echo for this kill. The 4 damage needed and more actually has gone onto the Scourge Beast to ensure that it is out of here. I'm going to be removing the Scourge Beast. The fog gates are going to lift. It's also worth noting I didn't bother putting a broken lamp token down on the lamp space. Wasn't planning on using it anyway, because you can't in these situations with fog gates, but we will see a lamp now placed here that we can actually come back to. The Insight mission concludes. You can tell based on the very large title of this card and the look of it. It says to distribute 1 consumable, and we also get a rune. The one that we get is called Claw Mark, and we can distribute these among the hunters. There's only 1, so I get both of them. It states at the bottom, the warding incense usually repel such beasts during the hunt, for them to not only attack the chapel, but also appear unaffected by the incense. There is something greater than mere instinct driving them this night. Here's a look at the things we gained after taking down the Scourge Beast. A bolt paper, so on attack we can add a speed to it. And then we also have the Claw Mark, which is a reward card. Again, these cards can be used, then they are exhausted, but can be refreshed after going to the Hunter's Dream. And it states, on attack, replace your stat card's effect with a +1 damage and a stagger. So just to give you an idea as to what I kind of have going on in my inventory here, I've got 2 Insight cards for 2 completed Insight missions. I got the Hunter Pistol there, which again can only be slotted back onto my player board when I get in between of a chapter. And then I have 2 rewards cards. It's worth mentioning around rewards cards, there are limitations. So you either have as a reward card a Hunter Tool, or you have the Ruins. And each player can only have a maximum of 2 of the Hunter Tools and 2 of the Ruins. Now at this point, no problem. I only have 1 Ruin, and the other one is a Hand Lantern, which is considered a tool. So 1 of each. We're safe for now. And then down below the consumable, you can have as many of those as you possibly can actually gain access to. And I've got my bolt paper there ready to go. Now, before I continue with my Hunter's turn, because technically I still have 1 card left, it's worth talking about the hunt mission right now, because we do have our 2 Insight cards completed, so we technically can start moving towards the central lamp tile, and I could actually reach it if I wanted to end it right now. I could use my last card, which I probably will, to move to that central lamp tile and initiate this. The reason I'm thinking I should, and I shouldn't really sit around and maybe go after that 3rd Insight, is because my hunt track is already in the final stages of the game, and I don't really want to risk it. Even though it would be nice to get some more kills and some more blood echoes, I just don't feel like it's the best time for it right now. And actually, there's something else that I gained when taking out this Scourge Beast on kill. As it states there on my trick weapon, draw 1 and heal 1. So I actually get to heal back up to 4 and draw an additional card. It didn't end up being anything too crazy. I got a basic +1 damage card, but now I have some more options. Now, the thing I'm thinking of is the fact that if I progress the hunt mission, I probably want to be prepared. Now, getting that 1 additional healing I just got is nice, but I'm not at a full 6 health, and I don't really like being at 4 against Scourge Beasts in general, or especially the Huntsman minion. Now, during this play, I have not run into a Huntsman minion. I have actually avoided them. They're a little bit tougher. They take 5 damage to take down, but they throw out 4 damage and 3 damage attacks like it's nobody's business. So going into any kind of progression on the hunt mission at 4, just 4 health, I kind of feel a little bit underprepared, and I've got just a little bit of time left. It might be worth potentially exploring resetting things, seeing as the next turn on the hunt track is going to have things reset anyway. So I might want to head back to the Hunter's Dream one last time, get 1 more upgrade, and prepare myself for whatever's coming from the hunt mission. I think that's what I'm going to go ahead and do. So I'm going to discard this card from my hand in order to go to the Hunter's Dream. The track moves to a reset point, which ensures that as of right now, I need to check every single spawn point and make sure all of the enemies are slotted in there correctly. The only change that's going to happen in this case is, remember when I threw the pebble and sent the Scourge Beast way into the back? Well, that Scourge Beast is now coming back to its original spawn point. Being that time is of the essence, I'm going to go ahead and spend a Blood Echo to grab Unyielding. It has a stagger and a draw 1 that could come in handy. Blood Echo has been spent. Cheap Shot replaces it. This one has stagger. If an enemy in your space uses an ability, discard from hand to deal them 2 damage. That's pretty cool. In order to get the stagger draw 1 into my deck right away, I'm going to ditch the basic stagger that I have. I'm also going to heal up to 6 and refresh Ludwig's rifle. Of course, the trick weapon is going to be completely all merged into my deck as I reshuffle the 12 cards and start from the beginning. Just like that, we're all reset and ready to go into the next round. The deck has been reset. I've drawn 3 cards. I got a basic dodge. We have a basic draw 1 and a basic +1 damage. I'm choosing to come back in, of course, on the central lamp tile because, well, that's where I need to go to progress the hunt mission anyway, so it just makes logical sense. Now, I've also moved up the hunt track to start this new turn, and as of right now, I am 2 more movement spaces away from the final space on the track, which is a reset point. It states to end a move on the central lamp tile after you have collected at least 2 insight, which I have. Now, the one sticking point about this strategy, which I employed, which is going to the Hunter's Dream and then coming back on a lamp tile, I'm going to assume that that is still considered movement as I'm coming back to the central lamp tile, rather than needing to actually use or burn a card and run around in circles on this tile to say that I ended a movement on it. So coming back and landing on this tile with the insight I need is enough to trigger this, and we're now going to go ahead and reveal card number 2. Source of the Scourge. Your senses flare at the sound of rapid moving claws. You turn just in time as a Scourge beast much larger than the rest leaps at you, its eyes glowing a haunting blue. Reveal card 3 and then surround the central lamp tile with fog gates. Spawn 1 Scourge beast on the lamp space. It respawns on this space once we hit a reset point. Of course, the lamp will break as well, so that miniature will be removed. So let's go ahead right now and grab and reveal card number 3. It's worth mentioning at the bottom, you'll notice it says complete the hunt by slaying this Scourge beast, meaning this is the last step we need to complete this mission, and it's a good thing because we are running out of time. Card number 3 is Pack Alpha. It says place insight tokens, and you'll notice next to the word insight, it has an icon. That icon is representative of the number of hunters in the current campaign mission. So for me, just 1, which means just 1 token will be placed on this card. When the Scourge Beast would be slain, instead remove 1 token and heal all the damage from it. All the tokens are returned when things reset based on the hunt track. Replace its ability with the following. Now the ability at the bottom here says Vicious. Scourge Beast makes 1 quick swipe attack. It cannot be staggered, deals +1 damage, and gains stagger and stun. That's pretty vicious. After double checking with the FAQ thread that had the designer's answers around little things like what we just ran to earlier, where I wanted to come back and be sitting on the central lamp tile, but the actual hunt mission told me I need to end my movement in that space on the tile in order for it to trigger. You do actually have to, if it mentions specifically movement, you do have to burn a card in order to be able to interact with that thing that it's telling you to do. So even though I came back from the Hunter's Dream on the tile that I needed to be on, I didn't do a move. So I am going to go ahead right now retroactively and get rid of a card for that. And based on just how I've been playing to date, I've got a basic dodge, a basic draw 1, and a basic +1 damage. At this point, I obviously have some knowledge because I know what I'm going up against, but I likely would have gotten rid of the basic draw 1, so that's the one I'm going to lose. And it's worth mentioning that the same logic applies to Ludwig's rifle. We have another example where it states right on it, when an enemy moves into your space, deal 2 damage to that enemy. The enemy didn't move into my space. The enemy spawned into my space. So if I want to make use of the 2 damage off that rifle, which I might, if I want to get a straight 2-shot through without having to deal with anything coming back at me at all, I could just choose to burn a card to move, have it pursue me, and then at that point be able to shoot it. Of course, I'm still stuck inside this fog-gated tile, but as long as I'm inside of it, I can move around as much as I want. For those of you watching as well, I've also placed the insight token on the Pack Alpha card, so we are going to have to go through this thing twice over again, so 4 damage and then 4 damage again. And what we're going to do is right now we're going to place a basic +1 card. I'm going to go after that heavy carve again because it's been working well for me. Now, I haven't flipped over my trick weapon that much in this play, but I've played ones before where I have flipped this thing back and forth multiple times, and it happens much more often. But sometimes for certain types of enemies, if you're going up against the same type more often than not, and I can tell you right now from previous plays again that the variation will change up all the time. So you're not just going to be able to bank on one thing working every single time. It will change and cause you to re-up your strategy. But the heavy card has been working out for me. Even though it's super slow, it does so much damage. All right, so the card is in the slot, and we actually already know what's going to be happening because the last card out of the enemy action deck is going to be a basic for sure. And so this is a basic attack. We know what this comes with. It is a fast attack from previous attacks we've had from Scourge Beasts, but but it does 2 damage. So the question is, do I want to dodge it, or do I want to actually hold on to the dodge card for later? I think in this instance, because I'm doing such a massive amount of damage on it, I don't mind taking 2 damage. And I really hope this doesn't come back and hurt me, but I'm also looking at the other cards I have available, like my rewards card here that states on attack, replace your stat card's effect with +1 damage and stagger. At this point, not really going to be useful for me. Yeah, getting the extra damage is nice, but again, I've got to go ahead and put 4 damage on this thing to have an insight token be removed to then put another 4, so extra damage isn't really going to work for me here, so we'll probably leave that alone, and I'll just stick with what I've got. I think I'm going to hold on to my dodge card for the first time and actually maybe use it when it comes back at me with its own activation attack in a little bit. So we'll go ahead and resolve combat at this point, which is going to be me losing 2 health and the Scourge Beast losing 4. So rather than placing the 4 damage on the Scourge Beast, the Insight token is just going to come off. All right, we're halfway there, so this is really good. At this point, we've resolved combat. I still have a card. Like I said, I have the dodge card. I'm going to stop right here on my Hunter's turn. It's going to end. The one thing to note is right now, enemies are going to activate. They always activate left to right. In this case, we have 2 Scourge Beasts that are actually going to activate. The one that's outside the fog gate, now let's say hypothetically, this will be a great example for you guys. If for some crazy reason this Scourge Beast happened to be here instead of where it is, it's within 1 tile away, it's still worth mentioning when there's fog gates, the Scourge Beast that's waiting outside the fog gate is not just going to sit there and do nothing. It is going to move into a space that is actually adjacent to the fog gate to get ready to come in later on. So as of right now, we don't have to worry about it because it was always here, but that's worth mentioning because you might miss that while dealing with all the stuff going on inside the fog gate. The enemies on the tiles within 1 away are all piling up next to that fog gate, getting ready to come in. It's now time to go ahead and pull a card and see what's coming my way. Well, this has to be the cruelest joke known to man. After resetting the deck, not even kidding you, the ability card was right on top. So Vicious is going to come after me here, that ability on the bottom of pack alpha. Rats, this is not good. Scourge Beast makes 1 quick swipe attack. That's going to happen. I cannot stagger it. It deals an additional damage. It gains stagger and stun. So this is just throwing everything at me. A quick swipe already does 2 damage, so that just did 3 damage through at me. And this, my friends, is why having a dodge card in your hand is extremely important for those nasty, nasty abilities that can come out of nowhere and put you in a really bad spot. I do still have the dodge card. I held on to it. For the first time, I think, in this playthrough, I actually kept it for the upcoming enemy's activation attack. So I'm going to use it right now in my quick cut slot in order to dodge this attack completely. So thanks to this dodge card, I'm suffering no damage and I get to ignore all the attack effects. It's at the same speed, this dodge, as the basic quick swipe attack, which is at 3, which is also fast. Thank goodness. And I can tell you how bad this could have been, because let's just say hypothetically I had burnt that dodge card to do maybe another attack or move to try to make use of Ludwig's rifle early or do something else. Well, guess what? On this attack, it would have been a basic 2. It then would have been an additional damage thanks to it being the ability. And then on top of it, it would have also gained stun, which we haven't seen yet, but stun states the hunter must discard a card, and if they can't, they suffer an additional damage. What would have happened? My hunter would have been slain and sent back to the hunter's dream, putting us in a very bad situation. And the reason it's bad is because dying inside of Bloodborne is really just speeding the clock up on you, because not only are you burning all your blood echoes that you've collected, if you have any at all, but you're also going to be ticking up the hunt track by 1 the second you enter the hunter's dream, and then when you come back from it, you're ticking it up again, and as you can see, that would have put me in the final slot on the hunt track, making things really tough. It's worth noting too, when the token reaches the final state on the hunt track at the very end, it's going to reset everything, but then it's going to give you 1 final round, of course, because it just moved into that final spot to try and win the game. If you can't, well, you lose and the campaign is over and you have to restart it from scratch. So it is pretty important that you don't make mistakes like that. So at this point in time, we barely scrape by holding on to that dodge. Let's see how the rest of this pans out. Starting a new round, we're going to move the hunt track and also drop 3 cards. This is what I'm working with right now. We have a basic dodge. We have an upgraded unyielding card here for stagger, which it gives me a draw 1. And we have an upgraded bloodthirsty card here. This is a +1 damage, then on kill. We've seen this before, draw 1, heal 1. Not bad. These ones are pretty good for what we got going on right now. Now this is where my head is going. I am thinking of absolutely using Ludwig's rifle in order to get 2 damage on. So I know I can burn a card to move, have him follow me, and then instantly shoot him for 2 damage. That's pretty good. But I need to make sure I can do at least 2 more damage to win this thing. So I am definitely going to be using, most likely, probably Bloodthirsty, I think. I guess it doesn't matter at this point in the game, being that I know that this is going to complete this particular chapter, which I use, whether it's Unyielding or Bloodthirsty. Either one of them I could slot into the slash position. I wouldn't want to put the dodge in there because I want to keep the dodge to put in the quick cut to avoid whatever nastiness is going to come from the Scourge Beast afterwards. But at least I know the ability card's already burnt, so things shouldn't be too bad. So seeing as I don't need the additional damage, I'm going to go ahead and rather get the extra card, because having an extra card could help me, especially if I need to move around or whatever else I want to do on my turn. So I'll go ahead and do that. So we're doing an attack with a stagger and a draw 1. I drew up the 1 card and I got Invigorating, which is another dodge with a heal and clear this or any other slot. So we're going to go ahead and place that back in our hands. We still have 3 action cards, and now we go over to the monster to find out what it's doing. This time around, it is going to be a basic attack. All right, so a basic attack is a 3 speed, 2 damage attack. This is pretty straightforward. I am absolutely just going to match its speed and dodge it. I might as well use the dodge that actually has a heal on top of it as well. So not only do I dodge the attack, but I also heal 1. So right now I'll be jumping my health back up to 5, and then I can clear this slot I just placed the card in or any other slot. So let's say hypothetically the game wasn't going to come to an end, as I know it will because it states complete this mission. But if I wanted to keep, let's say, my heavy carve open for whatever Scourge Beast might be coming from another tile very soon, I could clear the basic +1 damage card out of there right now to get ready for that. Just like that, things have been resolved. I have dodged the enemy's attack. I'm attacking it with 2 damage, and that 2 damage is going to be applied right now. I knew this rifle was going to come in handy one day, and this is definitely its moment. So we're going to go ahead right now, and I'm going to use Bloodthirsty. I'm really just discarding this in order to move. I'm literally just going to move to the right 1 space. And then the Scourge Beast is going to pursue me immediately, moving into my space. I'm going to exhaust Ludwig's rifle, dealing 2 damage to it and killing it. And just like that, the Scourge Beast has been slain. We were very close to the end of that hunt track. After killing the Pack Alpha Scourge Beast, we now reveal card number 4, which states, Prey slaughtered, Scourge Alpha. Distribute the Bloodstone Shard, and we get a new rune. This one is the Moon one among the hunters. The beast lets out 1 final roar before slumping to the ground. In the distance, you spot a group of creatures seemingly watching the fight. Readying yourself for attack, you instead find them turning and bounding off deeper into the district. Here's a look at the cards I've just gained here. Rewards, we have a Bloodstone Shard. It says place on an attack slot. You may switch the slot on transform. While on the slot, that attack deals +1 damage. And then the Moon rune says, when you are slain, keep 1 blood echo. It is immediately used when you go to the dream, as they all are, which is pretty awesome. So basically, you can die now, but you always are going to be able to upgrade at least once, which is pretty sweet, because if you die, typically you go to the dream world with no echoes whatsoever, and you're not able to do anything with your deck. It's also worth noting, for my 1 hunter that I'm controlling, I've now maxed out my limit on rewards that I can have at once, which is 2 hunter tools, which I have here between the lantern and the shard, as well as the 2 different runes. So we were very successful in chapter number 1. Ludwig's rifle has been exhausted because it was used to actually win this chapter. We gain a blood echo from the kill, and at this point at the end of the chapter, seeing as we've completed the mission, we're now allowed to go right to the hunter's dream, and we're able to cash in any blood echoes we have. There's actually a lot of great options inside the Hunter's Dream right now, but the cheap shot one that came up looks really cool because, again, obviously you can use cards to discard them to do an action, or you can play them into your trick weapon for what's stated on them. But this one's even more interesting because you now have the ability, as long as it's in your hand, to play this when an enemy's in your space that uses ability, you can deal them 2 damage. It gives another way to use this card that's very unique, so I'm going to grab that one. The card replacing it is a counter-strike card. This is a dodge card. After dodging, you get to deal 2 damage to that enemy on top of it. And at this point in time, we have now completed chapter number 1. There's a section here around progressing the campaign. As you can see at the very top, we just did the very first thing, which is to go ahead and cash in the remaining blood echoes that we have. It does state right here, if the players do not wish to go on to the next chapter, then of course you immediately jump to the saving progress area where you can stop right there and reset up for another day, or you can continue progressing. And this is where I wanted to throw back to you guys. Would you like me to continue the long hunt and see how much further I can survive? Now, the very first chapter of the long hunt is in a way the introduction scenario, because that's the one they recommend you play the first time through. Things begin to get obviously increasingly more difficult as you go along, so maybe I will be in much more dire straits in further plays. So let me know, and based on the feedback I get in the comments, how much of it and the enthusiasm around seeing more for this game, I will create some more plays around it. Thank you guys so much for watching, and as always, keep on rolling solo.